Hello, everyone. Welcome back to 10 Talks, the chill corner where we talk to people who are making cool things for Baldur's Gate 3. I'm Ace, and this is episode 2. Today, I'm joined by someone whose work you probably know. It's Eclipse, a modder with over 3.5 million downloads and best known for some really beautiful face and hair options, but he's also done some great work in other areas too, like class mods. And today we're going to talk about how he got started, what goes into making his mods, and dig a little bit deep into Modders Talk and see what he wants to share with us. Hey, Eclipse, thank you very much for being here today. And I think we can get started.
Yes, hey, thanks for having me.
Is there anything that we start off with the interview that you think of like, oh, I really want people that start out with modding for Baldur's Gate 3 to know this?
Well, probably that if you're really just starting out, you should really begin searching for a community like the Larian DC
Mm-hmm.
um, because it makes starting way easier. You can actually talk to people and ask them questions because the documentation of the modding itself is quite sparse.
Yeah.
Quite scarce actually, and so that's why you should actually look for a community to ask people how to start out. It's in my opinion
Mm-hmm.
way better than just looking at a text file, for example.
I've also seen you the last days yourself active in the Discord of Larian too, giving people like feedback to their mods and giving tips as well.
Yeah, I always stay quite active there.
Mm-hmm.
Try to ask it or try to answer any questions people might have. Though I also occasionally ask myself because there's some very smart people on there too
Mm-hmm.
that know almost everything. So uh, I just go to them if I have any questions too.
That's great. Yeah, I also found really helpful help there as well. So I'll link the Discord for everyone listening in the description of the video and also every other like resource we'll be talking about. But how did you originally get into modding yourself? Have you had experience in that area, like professional experience? Was it just out of curiosity?
Well, a bit of both. I've modded for 2 or 3 games before,
Mm-hmm.
but I've I'm actually a software developer, so that made it quite a lot easier
Mm-hmm.
to get into modding. And the reason I actually started modding for Baldur's Gate is because I was looking for a very specific mod, a class mod basically, for a character from League of Legends.
Mm-hmm.
I quite like my favorite one, and it didn't exist because it's way too specific. And so I just thought I might just make it, and went ahead and started making the class mod. That's my first class mod, or my actual very first mod I made.
That's awesome. Do you still have that class mod available for on your mod.io page?
Yeah, of course. I also
Cool.
have it on Nexus, and it recently also got released for console, so
Nice.
uh, it's I tried going back to it and updating it a bit so that it's not too outdated.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because in the beginning you don't know the ropes of modding yet, so some things are just not optimal or a little bit buggy. So I tried to go back to it and fix things up too.
Nice. That sounds really good. I'll link that in the description too if people want to check it out. Is that like, is it like, do you have like a favorite mod that you made, or is like that first mod maybe your favorite because it was like kind of like filling that niche that you were looking for?
I don't know if I have an actual favorite mod, but if I had to answer, it's probably my Tensora mod.
Mm-hmm.
It's also a class mod, but it's based on a show I really like, and it's it's also way too specific again. So there was no one that actually made it yet. It's also quite large. Like I've made subclasses for like I don't know nine subclasses
Oh wow,
uh,
yeah.
to capture multiple characters from the show. and that's probably my favorite one just because it's my favorite show.
Which show is it based on again?
Tensura. So the
Tensora.
full
Okay.
name in English is I think reincarnated as a slime or something.
Okay.
I just know the Japanese title.
Yeah, I never
Um,
heard of it.
yeah, that's my favorite show, so I thought I should make a class mod about it. I just had to play them Baldur's Gate.
I do feel you on that a lot. My favorite show is One Piece, and I was thinking of making a One Piece related mod too.
Oh, that sounds like a very good idea.
Yeah, right? Okay, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that about your favorite mod. And do you have like a favorite, seeing that you made 9 subclasses, do you have a favorite subclass that you like to play with?
Ooh, okay, that's a difficult question. I don't actually know. It's probably like the most like if you know the show, it's probably the most vanilla one. The very first subclass I made for it, from the actual protagonist. Uh, yeah, it's called Rimuru, but it's if I would have to say it's probably that one because
Mm-hmm.
it's more oriented into of being offensive and infinite stacking over the entire course of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I just like mechanics that stack up over time. So that's probably my favorite one of them.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that. I would now maybe go a little bit into like your modding experience and the learning. You said you had some professional experience to start it off with. Did you have any, like, for example, programming languages that you spoke, were fluent in, so to say, when you started that helped you with the Baldur's Gate 3 modding?
The only one I actually used for modding was Python. I would actually also recommend knowing that, because it can make many tasks way easier. Like for one mod, I tried combining multiple heads and horns or something for um, different body types or races. And for that, I needed all their IDs and names and whatnot. So I just wrote a Python script which fetched them from the game itself, from the game files.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have to go through like 3,000 lines of IDs to get them. So it can actually help you do things way easier and faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me personally, that sounds like wizardry. You're a tech wizard for me.
Okay, yeah.
But I'm like, I don't know if you know, but I started modding like start of May, so I have no experience yet with any of the programming languages. But it's also, I think, for me and other people, a good tip to know to like read into those things on the side. Do you work mainly with Python then, or do you also work with the toolkit that the devs released?
Well, I actually basically only work with a toolkit,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm enhancing it by using Python. So I do all the things inside the toolkit, and if I need additional things that would take way too much time inside the toolkit, I would just go into the files itself, basically skip the toolkit's interface and whatnot to edit the files directly, like the, in quotes, old school
Hmm.
way of modding in Baldur's Gate.
Makes sense. And do you have any other tools that you use that you would recommend people to check out?
Um, if you use the toolkit, then probably not. If you go for raw editing, I would say it's just Visual Studio Code with the, oh, I forgot the name, um, Baldur's Gate 3 modding helper or something. I forgot the name. Um, that gives you more tools to work with inside the editor and inside the text editor. Um, to directly convert files or whatnot. That's probably one of the biggest tools if you work with the files itself.
Hmm. But you personally mainly work with the tools. Did you start when the tools were already out, or did you start modding for Baldur's Gate 3 before that?
No, I started with a toolkit. Like I started, funnily enough, I think it was on the 1st of January this year.
Mm-hmm.
Literally just. the beginning of the year. So the toolkit just released or was out for a short time, and I started with that. And it was actually quite a good way to get into modding because it might be easier or better to understand at first than having to look at a file with thousands of lines of code you
Hmm.
never saw before. So the visual interface of the toolkit can be quite nice.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Were there any like beginner mistakes you made with the toolkit or things that you had a hard time understanding that then, you figured out that you could give others as a tip to look out for?
Maybe not mistakes in itself, but just getting or having to get started is the biggest thing. Um, the all the mistakes that happen are just basically because you don't know how the toolkit works yet, or how the modding system itself works, like different commands or whatnot. Um, Using the wrong ones basically, and then not understanding how or what the problem was, or why it didn't work. And that's probably the biggest mistakes that could happen in the beginning, I think.
So mainly just trial and error.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
that describes it quite well.
so maybe would you agree that like maybe then a tip would be to like when starting out modding, just like maybe following some of the guides how to install the toolkit and getting started with it, and just maybe the idea someone has for a mod, like trying to simplify it down to the basics to then try to understand the basic functions of how it works in the toolkit and try to make that work to then slowly build up on it.
Yeah, that sounds like the best way to do it. To not get caught up in like very complex mods right in the beginning
Hmm.
can be very overwhelming. So starting small and building up on it, even if you make mistakes, that's the try and error. Always try to go back and fix it, and not just uh, stop at it and uh, go ahead.
Yeah, that sounds really good. Um, Let me quickly check my questions. Yeah, regarding also the tools and the workflow, do you have any special ways of how you organize your projects or your ideas?
Um, well, my ideas are basically just a text file,
Mm-hmm.
uh, plain old text with just some notes I make myself, and how I organize the mods itself. Well, the toolkit already organizes it mostly,
Mm-hmm.
but beyond that, I used a GitHub repository to back up all my mods into GitHub, and that at the same time put or makes it easier to have an overlook uh, over all your mods. And I will also very highly recommend backing them up because it can happen quite easily that you lose your project or your mods. Um, so it's very wise to in some way back them up, and I recommend GitHub for that.
That's a great recommendation. I don't have any backups of my mods yet, so it's definitely something I personally will take from this conversation too.
That's a good idea.
Maybe you can send me the link to the GitHub, or I could just check it out and paste it in the video description later on.
Sure.
Do you mainly work solo, or do you also cooperate with other modders for your projects?
Well, for my own mods, I do them all solo,
Mm-hmm.
but I've ported many mods from Nexus mods to Mod.io, and for those I obviously work with the original creators.
Yeah.
Um, or rather, I asked them if I was allowed to port them,
Hmm.
but the actual mods themselves, I do mostly just solo.
Okay. And do you mainly do them solo just because you prefer working on your own, or just because like the opportunity didn't arise yet? How is the reasoning for that for you?
Probably just because of the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Most mods I make are way too specific, so I came up with a vision for them, and I basically have to make them myself anyways.
Hmm.
But if there was a more general mod that would need more people, I would very surely go ahead and ask someone to maybe join in.
Cool. Okay. I think that's like mainly the things regarding the maybe like your learning experience and the tools and the workflow. Would you like to add anything to those topics?
All good.
All good. Maybe what another thing that comes up for me, are there any like good guides beside maybe the official Larian guides that you would recommend, or any maybe YouTubers or such that helped you beside the Discord to grow as a modder for Baldur's Gate 3?
I've not actually watched any videos about it,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I would say I've only really used the guides on the like in the guide section of Morio
Mm-hmm.
and the discourse. That's all I used, and that's probably all you need, I would say. Videos can be good if you need a visual representation of what you would need to do, but I think that's mostly not needed, but that kind of depends on the person.
Hmm.
But I would still just mostly recommend the online guides on Modio and communities.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. What about um, the creativity and the vision? You already said you get your inspiration maybe from niche things that you stumble into, or maybe things while you play where you realize, like, hey, this doesn't really exist. How can I include it? Um, do you get inspiration for your mods through other ways? Do you maybe, I don't know, take sometimes also commissions, so to say, or people like reaching out to you asking if there's like a certain mod that you could do? How do you approach that?
Um, well, mostly I just get my inspiration from other games or shows or something like that. Um, like my first mod or the other mod I mentioned were like from a game and from a show. Other than that, maybe other mods some other people made. Uh, I I can't remember which one it was, but I made one mod that it's quite similar to another class mod I saw, but that's where I took my inspiration from it because it was very nice. I can't remember which one it was. Um, Other than that, I do sometimes get commissions too, and I also had people message me on Modair or Nexus mods if I could create a mod for this and that or port an existing mod over and certain stuff.
Hmm.
So I sometimes actually uh, reach out to them or reach back to them and create that. But most of the times, I don't want to say ignore it, but yeah, ignore it because it takes a lot of work and time to actually get these things done.
Hmm. So you stick more mainly with the things that you're in the mood to do and have fun with, because
Yeah,
it's just a hobby at the end.
yeah,
Makes sense. Um, how do you keep it with sticking to the lore? I guess like based on what you described so far, you don't really take the lore or the D&D rules, so to say, too strongly, seeing that you get a lot of inspiration also by other games or shows. So it's more about adding things maybe that don't exist in the D&D realm yet. Do I see that
yeah,
correctly?
exactly. Yeah, yeah, completely. I, it's, I always say like lore is good, but fun is better.
Mm-hmm.
I completely understand the people that love the lore and would never go against it. Um, but I would say that the fun in it is way more important. So I try to make my stuff fun, even if it's not actually following the lore or anything.
Hmm.
Um, so I kind of try to uh, go out of this lore box and make more stuff that's not existing.
Hmm. Really let your creative freedom, be free, not like
Yeah,
limited.
exactly.
Yeah. And if you had unlimited time and resources, just a hypothetical, would you, what type of mod would you really want to make?
That I probably can't really answer that one because
You
all
have
the ones.
unlimited time and
Yeah,
resources.
yeah, of course I have. It's of course I always have time and no problems at all. Um, no, but all the ones I wanted to make, I did, and on the same track, all the ones I will want to make, I would probably just make.
That sounds
So
amazing. Congratulations.
thanks. So it's kind of a difficult question for me.
Okay. Um, Maybe now we can talk a little bit more about the generals and like Baldur's Gate modding. How do you see like with your experience the future of Baldur's Gate 3 modding and the scene?
I'd say that in due time, many more mods will be created with the toolkit, which mostly more console mods. And I think console mods keep the interest on Baldur's Gate because there are many, many console players that never touched mods in their life and can suddenly do that.
Hmm.
And with that, they come flocking to Baldur's Gate for mods and stuff. So I think that's very important for the game. And also, it allows for custom campaigns. And I think custom campaigns are something that everyone wants
Yeah.
to obviously enhance the entire game, not just a class or something or some head mods or something, but actually have an entire new story. And I think that's the future of the modding scene, I would say.
Hmm. And when no, how do I say that? With console players, there are certain limitations due to how consoles are built, and you have also published different mods for console. And the regulations for console that are published are rather thin, I would say. Do you have any tips for console release for people based on your mods and your experience? What you would recommend people to look out for besides what they can maybe read in the official guide for publishing for console?
I think it can be said very short by just saying or try to not use any custom shaders or races, and that's basically it because the only things that would actually get denied for console are those because custom shaders do not work with consoles at all, and races just for some reason crash them. So those two things will never come to console. So just if you want to be on console, do not make mods for that. Sounds rough, but that's how it is. Um, Other than that, I think you can just literally make anything at all. And all right, actually, maybe not different IPs like from different games. If you add something from a different game as a mod, it might not go to console because of copyright issues. But um, I mean, that's quite an issue anywhere, I would say.
Was it an issue for the mods that you based on other shows?
Um, for my very first mod, not, but for my Tensora mod, it might be. I don't know yet
Mm-hmm.
because it's been selected for console quite long, but it never actually got published.
Mm-hmm.
So, and their team on Morio is quite silent, so you don't actually get any feedback if there's anything wrong. At most, maybe uh, they say if you change this, then we can release it, but that's quite rare. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, for example, from my experience, I made two housing mods. My first got approved for console, the second didn't. And I didn't know why originally. I think I might have some clues why by now. But for me, that's just like still seems like a little bit of a confusing topic, like what can go through for console and how, even after reading a lot into it right now. So I thought maybe you had some ideas there, but maybe it's just a general thing. I mean, like the devs are having to check each mod itself that goes for console, so it just takes some while for them. And it's maybe also a lot of mods where they cannot just not from their time and resources give feedback to everyone. So maybe if people try to make mods for console, to keep in mind that it can be a little bit more challenging process. And if your mod doesn't get approved for console, it doesn't mean your skill in modding is terrible or something like that, but it just means maybe it made the game crash for console. And to not make yourself go crazy about the fact that maybe your mod didn't get approved for console, even if you try to get it there.
Yeah.
Um, I think from my side, that is mainly it. Is there anything else that you would like to add to it? Any other recommendations? Maybe any mod of yourself that you would like to promote a little bit? Whatever it is. Some final remarks.
Um, I would probably just say at the end that if you want to start modding, you should set out for the specifically try and error, because many people try modding and stop very shortly after it because it just doesn't work or something close to it. Um, so you have to actually keep at it even if you fail. And also your mods, if you think they are bad, still upload them because people still might enjoy them very much. And I can tell you that it will feel very rewarding once you upload a mod and people start commenting or liking it. So I would just recommend not giving up very fast. Try your best at it.
Sounds like a nice little final remark and a recommendation. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Eclipse. I really enjoyed our talk, and we even talked for half an hour now.
Oh, I didn't expect that.
I know you did very well, and thank you so much for being here. And I hope you have a great day.
I hope you have a great day too.
Awesome. And if you like this video, please leave a like or follow the channel. Check out the links to Eclipse mods and Eclipse page. And I will link everything else that we talked about in the description of this video so you can check it out there. Have a great day.